growing up as a Cuban American is so funny when it comes to politics because you're basically taught from the jump, from the moment you are born, literally, they're giving birth to you, they're telling you this, that the situation in Cuba and the United States is a black and white situation. Cuba sucks and the government failed us and forced us to come over here to this great nation of the United States who is heroic. It's basically Captain America as a country who took us with open arms and gave us food, water, shelter, and basically gave us everything that our own government failed to provide us, right? But it's crazy because as I learn more and more about history and I learn more about the absolute horrors that the United States has committed across the entire globe and specifically to Cuba, I start to think, man, even if you don't agree with the Cuban government, how on earth could you possibly support the United States? Like, do you not know all of the evil things that the United States has planned to do to Cubans and to Cuba and did do? Like, didn't just plan, actually did? Like, here's a brief declassified document from 1962 about an operation known as Operation Northwoods. This was a plan concocted to justify U.S. military intervention in Cuba 3 years after the Cuban Communist Revolution. How you may ask, did the United States plan to justify a military intervention in Cuba? Well, we're going to get to that right now. This is, of course, part of the document. I did skip over some, and I'll go back to it in just a second. But this, in particular, was just absolutely insane, right? We could develop a communist Cuban terror campaign in the Miami area, in other Florida cities, and even in Washington. The terror campaign could be pointed at Cuban refugees seeking haven in the United States. We could sink a boatload of Cubans en route to Florida. Real or simulated? Fuck it. Maybe real, maybe simulated. Fuck it. We just gonna blow up some Cubans, basically. We could foster attempts on lives of Cuban refugees in the US, even to the extent of wounding in instances to be widely publicized. I like how they say here, exploding a few plastic bombs in carefully chosen spots. The arrest of Cuban agents and the release of prepared documents substantiating Cuban involvement also would be helpful in projecting the idea of an irresponsible government, that being the Cuban government that they wanted to paint as irresponsible because at the time they were widely popular in Cuba. Now really, just with that one bit of information already, as a Cuban, seeing that the United States had planned attacks against you and your people, refugees who are seeking a better life, how on earth could you still support this country? It blows my mind. It genuinely does. And I already know some of the comments are going to be like, oh, well, if you don't like it, then get out of here. There's going to be Cubans like, oh, if you don't like it, then go back to Cuba. Like, bro, okay, let's say I did that. How does that solve the problem that the United States threatened to blow up Cuban refugees? Like, let's say I pack my bags tomorrow and move the fuck back to Cuba. How does that solve the issue at hand? I said I'd go back to some of the other insane things. Oh, damn, I got a voice crack. Fuck. I said I'd go back to some of the other insane things that are in this document. They basically wanted to create a Remember the Maine incident that could be arranged in several forms. Now, Remember the Maine, I think, I'm just going off the top of my head here. I think that's when like a ship called the USS Maine was blown up in like a harbor in Cuba, and then the United States used it as a pretext to liberate Cuba from Spain. Yeah, that's exactly what it was, what I just said. Y'all can read this if y'all want. It's basically what the fuck I just said. So yeah, they basically wanted to stage an attack so that they could invade Cuba. Like, it's literally just, bro, it's like basically the 9/11 conspiracy theories, but on like a different era, like a different country. Like this is the people who say, oh, 9/11 was like planned so that we could invade the Middle East. Like, this is basically that. Like, we don't need a conspiracy theory anymore. Okay, maybe 9/11 wasn't like actually that, but they have wanted to do exactly that. This is a comedically evil country. And just to pull up another example here, did y'all know that the CIA, which is an American organization, is linked to a 1971 swine virus in Cuba that they brought from Africa? For the first time to the Western Hemisphere, they brought over a swine flu from Africa to Cuba. Introduced it to the hemisphere, bro. And this swine flu led to the slaughter of 500,000 pigs in Cuba. Now, if you're not aware, pork is like our fucking I don't know what the hell do Americans eat. Pork is like hamburgers to Cubans, bro. That's all we eat on every occasion. All we eat is pork. We love pork. Can you imagine the absolute damage and the hunger that slaughtering 500,000 pigs on an island of about 11 million people like causes? It just genuinely blows my mind, bro. Like, how can you still support the United States after all of this? And these are only two incidences. I haven't even talked about like the biggest crime that the United States has committed against Cuba, which have been the sanctions that they've had in place since 1959 or 1960, I believe, costing billions and billions of dollars to the Cuban people. And this is the document because I hear all the time the sanctions don't actually do anything or the sanctions don't actually exist. But at the same time, we need more sanctions so that the people of Cuba can struggle more and eventually overthrow the government. So it's literally like a feedback loop in your head like, no, the sanctions don't exist, but we need more sanctions. So I'm going to vote for candidates and presidents that establish more sanctions on Cuba because the sanctions actually do work. It literally makes no sense. The mentality of a right-wing Cuban makes no sense. Look at the document, right, that establishes the sanctions. It literally says, damn, bitch, I'm sorry, I can't do nothing right today. They say that if the above are accepted, and by the above they mean the conditions for the sanctions, are accepted and cannot be successfully countered, it follows that every possible means should be undertaken promptly to weaken the economic life of Cuba. If such a policy is adopted, it should be the result of a positive decision which would call forth a line of action which, well, damn, bro, y'all motherfuckers just write a word salad, man. Look, it's basically saying that while being as inconspicuous as possible, we should make, with this policy, the greatest inroads in denying money and supplies to Cuba, to decrease monetary and real wages, to bring about hunger, desperation, and overthrow of government. What up, y'all? I forgot to put this in the video, but the Cuban sanctions don't just prevent Cuba from trading with the United States. It actually discourages other countries from doing trade with Cuba as well. It does this by threatening to sanction the companies that do trade with Cuba from other countries. So basically, companies have to decide, do I want to do trade with Cuba or do I want to do trade with the US? And obviously, the US is a much bigger market and they're always going to pick the US. And for the people who are going to say like, oh, so Cuba needs capitalism to survive? No, it needs trade. Just like how the United States needs trade. You know who the United States' biggest trading partner is? Communist China. So yes, it isn't just a one-dimensional policy. It affects everybody around the entire world. And it prevents Cuba from trading with pretty much anybody around the entire world. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, when there's hunger and desperation in Cuba, maybe we should take a look at the document established by the world's most powerful nation in history that was meant to do just that and cause just that. Maybe the great United States that you love so much is actually not so great. Maybe they are Big Satan, essentially. So yeah, man, I mean, I'm just genuinely confused, like how you can glaze America so hard and be a Cuban and be invested in politics. Like it's giving raccoon, and I'm sure y'all know what I mean by that. It's giving raccoon. Like y'all hate your own people, bro. You know how many times I've had to listen to Cubans actually tell me that they want a U.S. military intervention, like they want the U.S. to straight up invade? Bro, how has that ever worked for any Latin American country? And really, bro, this goes for like all Latin Americans, and I'm making this video, this part, for all Latinos. We should not be glazing America. We should be holding our governments accountable, yes, for corruption and lack of efficiency, mismanagement, a whole lot of things. We could go over Latin America's problems forever. But when you talk about their problems, and then at the same time, you're celebrating America or saying we need more American intervention, I just want y'all to understand that that is not going to work out in our favor whatsoever. Think about, just off the top of my head, what we did to Chile. We overthrew their democratically elected president and established Pinochet, a fascist dictator. We committed a genocide in Guatemala over some fucking bananas. Started a whole war with Guatemala because the government of Guatemala wanted their land to be used for their people and not for a fucking US banana company. Like, because of that, we committed a genocide against, I believe, the Mayan people, and we killed a whole bunch of Guatemalans in the process. Oh, and I know this is a little bit off topic, but I got to mention Little Satan. Israel assisted in that war against Guatemala and, genocide. Surprise, surprise. We're striking random fishing boats in South America, like with absolutely no evidence that they're drug boats or narco terrorists, as they're being called now. It's just sad, man. Like, it's just genuinely sad. Like, how could you possibly support this treatment of your own people? It's crazy. But yeah, man, I just wanted to get on here, make this little video, show a little bit of the facts, as I say. And y'all have a good ass day, man. Make sure y'all like, comment, and subscribe. Or I don't know. I don't know. I'm gonna jump out of a plane with no parachute. Y'all have a good ass day, man.